Everybody's going to hear this again.
Sorry about that.
Are we good?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome everybody to the October 23rd meeting of the Land Use and Waterfront Committee. My name is Majid Abdul Samad and I am the chair of the committee today. Tonight, we are joined by Assistant District Manager Brendan Berth, and the meeting is called to order at 7:02. As a reminder, New York State law now requires all committee board members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time of the meeting is called to order until the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. Members of the public who are here in person, you can raise any questions you have by raising your hand. If there's time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. So we need a volunteer for tonight's meeting minutes, and it won't be Gabe or Susan or me since we've done this before. So I don't know if there are any takers.
I was just out there.
Perfect. All right. Then thank you so much, Sandy, for taking minutes. And battling jet lag.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. All right. So for attendance, Brendan will conduct a roll call.
Okay. Committee members, I will call your name and you will unmute yourselves. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. Majid Abdul Samad.
Present.
Victoria Benatar.
Present.
Jim Collins isn't here. John DeRico.
Present.
Sandy McGee.
Present.
Rich Mintz.
Present.
Larry Shire.
Present.
Sandro is not here. Letty Simon.
Present.
Okay. I do not see Susan. Gabe Turzo.
Present.
And Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Brendan. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and is reflected on the screen in front of you. If there's no objection, we'll adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to the agenda, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, the agenda is for tonight is adopted. So also the meeting minutes from the September 27th meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. There are no objections. We will adopt minutes as drafted. If anybody has any objections, please raise your hand. Again, seeing no objections, the meeting minutes are adopted and will soon be available on the CD6 website. All right, setting some quick ground rules in order to conduct an official meeting. Let's observe the following rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question about the committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and I'll identify you so you can speak. Committee members unable to attend in person, if you have a question about committee business, you may raise your hand through Zoom and I'll identify you so you can speak. All committee members, it's extremely important that only one person speaks at a time. Members of the public watching can understand and follow the discussion. Chat function for committee members present via Zoom should not be used for committee business or questions about the agenda. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used for any technical difficulties or if you're having or state in writing information that were already mentioned aloud, like an email address. So with that, let's get to committee business and hopefully we can do it in a shorter period this month. It's a shorter agenda, just some quick updates. Let's start with the East River Greenway construction. DOT will come, but actually EDC might give us an update next month, but they did share this and I'm just going to put it up on the screen about updates. This is regarding the East River, East Midtown Greenway. This is the connection between 53rd and 53rd and 61st. It's pretty small. I actually went on a site visit and I'll show you photos in a minute. They've completed striping for bike lanes, testing lighting. If you go out there, you would think this is complete and done. But once you get closer to the north part, that's where the Haswell Green Park is. That's still under construction. So that's what's delaying its opening and us finally being able to access it. They gave updates about construction hours. You can see it on screen, but I will show you some quick photos from that site visit. Is my screen? Oh, wait, okay. Let me share a different screen. Stop sharing. Screen here. So you can see this is a photo, for example, this is me standing on 61st and looking south. You'll see the separation between cyclists and pedestrian space with the buffer between. It's worth noting that the two are actually at a different elevation from one another. So it gives nice views for cyclists going up, heading north. However, downside, which is unfortunate, really unfortunate that this wasn't in scope, and definitely something we need to ask about for the remaining segment, is that everything you see to the south here, where there's no separation between users, is floodable. And I wonder if it was flooded during the extreme rain events that happened a couple of weeks back. This is floodable in part, not by design, but because it was existing and they did not raise the elevation. And they said that was not part of the scope for this quite expensive project. Go ahead, Eric.
Could you explain a little bit more about how this is flooding? Is this from the tide, or is it just a rain without any drainage?
No, it's the tide. It's just currently, if you go just on a normal day, no storms, nothing, you'll see that you literally have just 2.5 to 3 feet max from water elevation to where you're standing. So that tide obviously goes up to 5-6 feet at times for East River and just floods that area. So granted, no one's going to be biking or walking around there during the storm, but that will leave a mark on it.
And this also is going to be flooded during the astronomical high tides?
I'll share maybe a couple more photos. It's also really I'm excited about it because it's really cool. They've done excellent job with the choice of materials, maximizing seating spaces, making that buffer between the two that also can help absorb rainwater and otherwise. This has been, a lot of these plantings, apparently they put them 6 months ago and they're expecting them to survive another winter because they open to the public. So all around exciting. As we go to the furthest point south, show you this. This is the connection at Sutton Place Park, which the community had expressed concern about before, because it's going to it took I shouldn't say a sizable chunk, but a little bit from that park to create the connection. I asked about why there's no connection to the existing trail that you see on the right, and that is not an ADA accessible path. So right now, if you can see where my cursor is right here, there's basically a dead end pathway along the water. And that will not be connected. At least right now, they don't have plans to connect it to this part or to the extension that's going to go all the way to 41st.
I think Letty might have a question.
Go ahead, Letty.
I do. You said that you had a site tour. When was that and how were you invited? Because the Sutton Place Parks Conservancy had a meeting with EDC, Parks and DOT, and we asked them, they said it's under construction so that we could not get a site tour. Did you have to sign a waiver, or how did you get a tour?
I did. So this tour was organized through the Urban Design Forum.
Oh, okay. Not the city.
Not the city, no.
Thank you. And I find your remarks very helpful. Thank you.
Great. You can contact UDF since they're organizing such tours. They provide the whole gear. You show up with hard, obviously.
What's the name of? I'm sorry. What's the name of the organization again?
That's Urban Design Forum.
Thank you. Okay, got it. Appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. The very last thing I'll show, it's cyclists might not like this actually, that it gets quite narrow at the connection. I measured 3 feet on a turn. It's not great for a cyclist. Brian can speak to this.
I mean, that might be an accessibility concern. They have to make sure that design allows mobility devices to go through.
Right. Yeah.
It's a little questionable on the basis that 3 feet may be enough for what they assume is residential owned bicycles.
Right.
But And they may want to, and if they have a rule banning business and cargo bikes thing, then that might be a thing, but it still needs to be accessible. And this has been a problem in Westchester with path openings, is that they have opened 2-foot wide locked gates and stuff like that. And they've been flooded and there's rocks in them and there's all kinds of obstructions, and it actually prevents devices like recumbent bicycles from getting through them. But it's usually not as straightforward as this. It looks more like what's on the new Tappan Zee Bridge.
Yeah, thank you. That's
So
helpful.
we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, the downside of this, I mean, it might be as a way of like slowing bikes because it's like a 90-degree turn here.
Right.
But if someone is with a carriage, even like with a kid behind them, this will be quite tricky. Okay,
But there also seems that the sight lines are okay because the fence is not so high that it would hide people.
yeah, no, and you're coming off of a bridge that's flying over FDR, so you have elevation, you have benefit there. Okay, the last I'll show, this is the next and last segment that's remaining. This is standing on 53rd and facing south. So if we were to zoom in, you'll see all the way in the horizon that this is where we are by the FDR. This is called the UN Esplanade. It's currently in design. We're expecting an update. I don't know, Sandy, is it next month?
And I think so, that was the plan.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's the new wave pier, right? That.
Oh, right
that's the
across,
other
yes.
end of, yeah.
Okay, that's the update. Go ahead.
Do we have even a concept of how this would be constructed? Or is that what we're still waiting for?
I think that's what we're waiting for. So now they're in design stage, which is till 2025.
I know when EDC comes next month, if we need to, or if we prepare some questions ahead of time, they can answer them. So if there's anything we did want specifically to ask about this section.
Well, how it would be engineered, for example, we
no,
have this
sorry.
ODR here, what would they do? Where would they put it?
The section that we just spoke about, this particular portion of the greenway that Majed just presented, do we have questions about it?
Okay, I was wondering whether we had any future United Nations segment
Understood.
questions. Okay.
Yeah, understood.
So more things to discuss next month. That's all we had on the East River Greenway.
I mean, I know one of the questions was maintenance, who's going to be in charge of taking care of this? And I think Letty, the Conservancy has some specific questions.
The jurisdiction is going to be parks. And the Conservancy, you know, we take care of the parks and we are intending to continue what we do with parks to do with the Greenway, and those discussions are ongoing. So, yeah,
Okay, great,
It's-
thank you.
parks is primary.
Got it. Okay, thank you, Letty.
You're welcome.
All right, next point on the agenda for us is continued discussion of city FES. I will lead with an apology that I don't have a written resolution for us to look at. But now that we've received the zoning text amendments, as a reminder, for the city FES, the zoning for economic opportunity, which George James presented on last month, were referred to us by DCP, and now they're asking us for comments, questions, and ultimately they hope for an endorsement. Per our discussion last month, looks like we are generally in favor of the direction, but we have reservations and we have clarifications. So per Brenda's suggestion, we maybe should, well, I'm suggesting that we take a vote on drafting a resolution that makes our position clear. That position is we're generally in favor, but here are the resolutions, these are the reservations and questions we have, right?
I move for drafting a resolution that is in favor of the City of Yes economic proposal as presented last month.
Let me clarify, is it as presented last month, or how do we make that caveat that we have reservations like the issue of casino?
You'll amend my motion.
Please.
It hasn't been seconded yet.
Second. All right, the next step, this isn't me, there's a lot of folks who have been chair before. I don't know what's the next step. Okay, then can I suggest an amendment? To add the caveat,
I don't think we need an amendment because we really just, we need to just come up with what we're gonna add to the resolution.
Yeah, we maybe don't need to be so formal about it.
Yeah, I think we can
Just
just have
add,
a discussion.
let's discuss potential amendments.
Is there going to be an opportunity to ratify the caveats that you will hopefully will draft based on your recollection?
yeah, so actually our hope then, this is why I said, maybe we can say that we are in favor with the principles and have clarifications and questions and issues to be addressed. And therefore it's lighter on the whereas and a little heavier on the therefore section.
Call the question?
We don't want to try and flesh it out a little bit before we.
Oh, so actually, some of what those questions would be is what we have showing on screen. Clarifying how lifting restrictions will impact residential use. That's restrictions for use on ground floors. How the city is planning on mitigating that additional strain on limited affordable housing stock. Those are a lot, and I need to formalize it
Yeah.
further, but they're based on the discussion with George James last month.
And these all look familiar from last week.
All right.
So basically, it's a resolution in support with these caveats and anything else that we want to add in between.
Yeah. So I can take a stab at drafting this resolution if there are any volunteers to help, just add a second pair of eyes on it before we present it to full board next month.
Just a clarification, like unless the committee were to vote tonight on a resolution, like if you were to just draft it and not vote on it, then it would actually be presented to the full board in December. So that's.
Miss our commentary period.
Yeah,
Right.
So we need to
So-
vote on it tonight.
if the committee wants this to be at November's full board, then they need to vote tonight. If the committee is fine with there not being a vote at November's full board, then the committee doesn't need to vote tonight.
Got it. And I'll just second that. I think we want to get our comments to them as soon as possible. And therefore, I suggest that we vote on it today if possible, so we get it in November. Brian, then Mark.
Just gonna put out there that we, in terms of fleshing out this resolution, I do think that, whereas clauses should be corrected with care and be consistent with what we're doing, but the main points are that we should get a bullet list of our resolves together tonight. And that's what we should vote on. And if that's fleshed out and consistent with what we voted on tonight for full board next month, I think we're clear and we shouldn't have to caucus or anything like that. So, and that will be up to, the office and Kyle, whether that consistency means that we're okay with that. Do you agree with my, you guys are cool with that?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
And last month, we have a record, we have a video record of the fulsome discussion and transcript of sorts, which should aid you in putting together those bullet points.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think we need to invent anything new.
Okay, so is there then a motion to vote on drafting it in line with the discussion from last month?
Are those the bullet points there on the screen?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, and one reason I have this up is, if the committee is gonna vote on it tonight, it seems like the committee might want to, like, see what sorts of questions would be in the resolution, make sure that the committee's in agreement in terms of what's brought up.
What are our conditionals? What are our decided conditionals and not just questions?
I'm not sure we have any because it's still, they really are questions that we're not able to answer.
Casino. Is it?
When you say you mean, what are the issues that should they not?
Yeah.
amend, we would not be in
In
favor.
favor.
What should we resolve to say that we are not in favor of these aspects of them? Yeah,
So I think the casino is the one deal breaker that the committee identified. The others were clarifications on how are you mitigating impact and how are you being more thoughtful. The laboratories issue wasn't one that needed clarification because of a concern about high containment accidents, but it was not like a flat out no.
And since I raised the issue, I agree with what your characterization is.
Okay.
You don't want to just make that conditional and say we don't want that?
No.
Okay, then,
My suggestion would be, should they prove that there's a system in place to prevent such high containment accidents, then we're not opposed to it in principle, we're opposed
No,
to.
what we're insisting on is a safe facility.
Right,
And we could put it in that positive term, safe.
right,
and we can put that in the whereases that we asked about that and that the follow-up was a statement that seemed agreeable to the committee. Is that okay?
No, but that's George James, it's not the city planning, so,
right.
you know, it's not really, they haven't responded to our concerns.
Right, so then to clarify, once they respond to our concerns, then we get to vote whether we are in favor or opposed to the zoning text amendments in general, as they present them as a final version.
And that's not what we're voting on.
That's not what we're voting on now.
Right, we're just making comments, so really they are more a form of question, I think, at this point, because we haven't.
So we'll always get to add more to the list we have.
We have to ratify the questions, essentially. So, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
then let's do that.
And just, I believe with the casino, the way I understood it from the presentation is that the city has left it very open. That there are no particular restrictions currently, like it could be in the entertainment zone, but it's up to the city to decide the requirements for a casino.
right,
And I guess maybe what we're saying is that we want very clear requirements for a casino to be located.
right. Yeah, I think this is in line actually with the second point, but maybe we can, it's between second and fourth point. That we're in opposition, but the question really is, what is the role of the community in this process? And should we not have a role, then we are obviously opposed to that.
I should mention that since last we met, the developer has come forward with an alternative to the Ferris wheel, and that was affordable housing
Yeah,
as a means of drawing us in.
yeah. Can I suggest actually that we tackle this in the old and new business, because I want to talk about this a little more. Do you think it's relevant to this?
But if we're saying, as a blanket matter, we're opposed to a casino, and if it's being presented in a way that you'll get a huge amount of affordable housing, I think we should give it a fair listening.
Got it. I think the framing is again more about what is our role, since it's a zoning text amendment. Are you taking us out of this whole process, or are we still as a community part of it? If we're still part of it, then we get to discuss what are the compromises and trade-offs. But if they're circumventing public input with the zoning text amendment, they can build as a right a casino. We are not in favor of that. Would you agree with that?
I don't think that's what's happening.
If I could just say, like, in the process of the text amendment, I think what Majed said is actually the way we need to proceed. I mean, whether we agree or not is kind of outside of this particular question. We want to participate.
Okay, may I make a suggestion that if you're going to bring up the issue of casino, it should be couched in terms of the imposition of something that is unknown, in terms of what its impact is going to be. It raises natural concerns in the community.
Right, and yeah, I agree. I think we're in agreement here. What we are saying is participation is our key objective here. We want to participate and later decide whether we're in favor or opposed.
Right.
Don't take us out of this process and make it an as of right, in which case they don't need to come to us.
Because there are so many unknowns at this point.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions about what's on screen? Otherwise, does anybody want to move to vote on drafting this resolution?
I move,
Wait, go ahead and then we'll ask.
I move to vote on drafting the resolution.
All right, before this is not yet seconded. Any comments from public?
I second it. I'll second that.
Sorry, lady, we're just taking one comment from the public before you seconded this.
Okay.
I just had a question on when this was discussed in more detail last time. For any new residential development, is there any requirement for affordability at all? Or could all new residential development theoretically just be luxury or market rate?
I think it'll depend on their zoning, but these folks are not required to provide, in this case, for example, they're not required to provide.
And is this specifically about the casino or about the?
No, this is just broader City of Yes question. I don't know if it falls under economic opportunity or one of the other City of Yes permutations, but I was just curious to know if that's something that's been discussed or questioned.
It's one of the other permutations that's not coming up yet, and
Okay.
the way Judge James explained it, it'll be next year before they give us more detail.
Yeah, because then we'll discuss the mandatory inclusionary housing and voluntary inclusion, and those two will be like also the third aspect of City of Yes. There's carbon neutrality, which we discussed, there's economic opportunity, we're discussing today, and housing and income 2024.
Okay.
Okay, so Gabe, move to vote. Letty, are you seconding it?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Brendan, can you take roll call, please?
Yes, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or abstain for cause. Adele Wilson,
In favor.
Victoria Benatar,
In favor.
John DeRico,
I think I have to abstain because I wasn't here last month.
Sandy McKee,
In favor.
Rich Mintz,
In favor.
Larry Schreier,
In favor.
Letty Simon,
In favor.
Gabe Terzo,
In favor.
and Brian Van Nieuwenhoven.
In favor.
With 8 in favor, nobody opposed, and 1 abstention, the resolution passes. We need someone to draft it. And I guess it'll be you, Midge.
I can volunteer to draft it, yeah.
Okay,
I can help too as my punishment for not having.
Very, yeah, thank you. All right, moving right along, the third point we had is on open restaurant street use. We did reach out for DOT, asking them to join, and they weren't able to join today. We understand that Transportation Committee is not taking this up as of right now, this issue. So I don't know if we want to table until we have some more information to share. The reason this is brought up for us that it will have impact. It's not happening this season, but starting next season, the city have a certain amount of restrictions that will have great impact on restaurants. Basically area of operation and therefore profitability and therefore whether they can continue to operate in our district the way they do currently. So open for discussion, but just putting this on everybody's radar, right?
So if they decide that they would come to my committee to make that kind of presentation for some weird reason, they should be able to come to any of the committees. But if they would come to my committee and I put it on the agenda, would that be interesting to you, even if we didn't take up drafting a reso afterward, if it was just informational?
I think honestly, the fact that this is under the jurisdiction of DOT is a little weird. And it's only because it's happening on the street, on the roadbed itself. But the question is, yes, there are discussions about what happened in that space once folks are required to remove their sheds from November to March. But our real question is, how are you mitigating the impact on the restaurants themselves? Like, what is, how are you thinking through the impact on the sidewalk? Or thinking through impact on the businesses themselves? So I think that was why we're bringing it up here. That being said,
Majed,
I'm curious. Go ahead, Daddy.
I see among the people attending is Anton Malner, and he was our board member on the committee that drafted it. So maybe he has something to say if you unmute him.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for flagging, and Brandon's doing that now.
Just,
Okay.
I reached out to Anton to let him know that we were discussing it.
He's here.
yeah, I'm promoting him to a panelist, so that way Anton can speak freely.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, we can.
Yes.
This whole thing with open restaurants has been very frustrating, not only personally, but for my committee as well. We've made our comments, we did our resolutions, and at this point in time, there are no permanent regulations yet. If you go up to the website for the DOT, it says they're still working on it. Now, there are regulations that are proposed, but I don't think the city council has gotten down to discussing them or approving them. So to my way of thinking right now, we should just table this and see what kind of pressure we can put on the DOT or either before my committee or your committee to find out where they stand and how this thing can be moved along. Now we're in November already, we'll be in November already, and according to the temporary regulations, there's the restaurants that have sheds or are using the roadbed should be taking these down. Now, I don't know whether that's going to be enforced or not.
And Don, can I ask a clarifying question? Do they have to take down the shed starting this November or 2024?
That's unclear.
My understanding is that this is not applying until next year, and therefore this is the last winter that restaurants can have sheds outdoors.
Fine, if that's the case, but you know, there hasn't been any clarity on that.
Got it. Interesting point from Brendan.
Yeah, and then there's the enforcement piece, which from an office standpoint has also been frustrating at times.
In what sense, Brendan?
Cases of, various outdoor dining structures, that are abandoned, that DOT takes months to even inspect.
So what is it? It's just
Let alone request that they get taken down. Even cases of restaurants that have closed and sheds associated with restaurants that have closed, it
Those
can
are
take
permanent
months
rules.
sometimes.
Right, but not
Now, as to
permanent.
why that is,
Educate-
that I'm not sure, but it,
I think we're
the inspection situation. It could use some work.
And is that recent?
It's been an ongoing,
It's constant. Okay,
it's been an ongoing issue.
thank you.
Okay, Brian, you had something to ask.
Just that, in August, the council passed, some legislation, that enshrined a open restaurants program that had a permanent legal authorization, but would only be, part of the year. Although it would be 8 months of the year, it would still be just, they'd have to dismantle for 4 months. Is the issue that hasn't been signed by the mayor yet, or is aren't those rules permanent legal rules at this point, unless they're changed by the council again?
If you go up to the DOT website, it says it's not permanent yet. It's still being worked on, quote unquote. So I don't know where it stands with the mayor.
Got it. So it looks like we would benefit from having DOT representation in this conversation for us to hear it straight from them. And voice our concerns, questions. So maybe, Sandy, let me know what you think about this. Maybe we can invite them for next month and ask Anton to also be present, representing his board, his committee, and same for Brian.
Yeah, I mean, we did reach out to them, so we can ask them to come again. Absolutely.
Also, I'm curious about what is gonna happen when they remove the sheds? Where is it gonna go? Is it gonna be garbage? Is it gonna be recycled material? Is it gonna?
So, okay, as a side piece of information, I know a little bit about this because my company WXY, where I work professionally, have been designing what those sheds could look like for the city, and how they could be put, stored.
Okay, so
So I know that there are discussions. What I know I can share public is that there are discussions about those being reusable every year. I understand they will be costly, and the city said they will offset that cost by creating these incentive programs and loans. But as you know how the city operates, this is a lengthy process, a costly process, and it will probably disqualify a number of small shops.
Okay, that's great to know.
So just as a clarifying remark, I have the legislation shared on screen right now. It has been enacted. Even signed into law, but. So it's not that it hasn't passed. It's just, I guess DOT is in the midst of, implementing, I guess. I forget exactly how DOT put it when they said that, that that they weren't able to come to tonight's meeting, but.
They said they were developing.
Yes, that was the language. They were
Developing.
Yeah, is developing more.
We got a diplomatic response. Okay, any other thoughts on this? Okay, hearing none, we'll move this to next month. We'll try to have DOT present. The last thing we have, the last item on the agenda for today is continued discussion about the privately owned public spaces. The office circulated this report that Letty worked on, and this is from 2015. So Letty, can you share a little bit more about this? The executive committee meeting did not happen this month, so we don't yet have an update on the fellow. As a reminder, we did ask for a fellow, just like we had Laureen last year, help us on a number of issues related to resiliency. We asked this year for a fellow that can help us basically do more analysis on the status and the benefit of these spaces. So Letty, anything from your side on
Basically, no, this report was done many years ago and has not been updated. And that's as much as I can say. There's been no activity on it. And I had suggested several times that maybe we could get summer interns. And the answer I got from the office always was, we have no space for them, because I thought that might have been part of a project that summer interns could have done. They could have gone out and checked these spaces, gotten the new regs and see where they are in terms of compliance. And the interns also could have done a business survey of small businesses. But I guess that's where it is. There's been nothing done with it, in other words, at this point. So I don't know what, I think a couple of years ago when Pam was the chair of parks, they thought they were going to do something about it. They were going to go out and check against what we have here. And in the interim between the time this report was issued, which is several years ago, and today, there are many more pops. And we don't know what condition they're in or what exists. So it just needs an update, and an intern could do that. I mean, a fellow could do that and also make serious recommendations. So it's up to, what you want to do about moving forward to update and improve it.
Got it. Thank you, Letty. Actually, Larry, before I give you the floor, I'm just going to highlight the fellow, the planning fellow request that Sandy and I worked on. Basically identifies these objectives: assessing accessibility and usefulness of the POPs, reporting discrepancies between requirement and existing amenities, creating an annotated map, designating all POPs within CB6, which we don't have one right now. There's no easy way for us to know where these even exist in our district. And lastly, finding ways and means to encourage and aid existing POPs owners to upgrade current access and amenities. So
That'd be fabulous.
Okay, so we're waiting to hear back on this. I really hope we get this fellow. Last year, Laureen did great work that we, in volunteering capacity, were not able to do.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Larry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brendan, then Larry.
Yeah. We'll just need to see in terms of fellowship placements, as no decisions have been made with regard to that yet. So we'll need to see.
Do we know when to make them?
That I'm not sure of, but I can ask Jesus.
All right, thank you, Larry.
In the recent months, we've had several presentations before the board by entities that are responsible for POPs, requesting that they be altered in terms of their nature and operation. And so we have some current involvement in that. I was wondering if we are aware of any new buildings that have added POPs, because my impression here is that the survey that you're looking for is just a reassessment of what exists beyond what has been brought to us by the responsible parties. Does anybody have any insight or knowledge as to new buildings that have created pops that we might want to discuss today or highlight? Because I don't know of any. Man.
I believe I had watched the last video on YouTube, but we talked at length. Somebody said that there was a reason why they're not creating a lot of new pops. I don't believe there are new pops being generated for various legislative reasons. So I think the body of, the quantity of pops is probably set from what it was back then.
So then the appropriate scope for the work of our fellow is a reassessment of what exists.
And
Right.
also an updating of those that were added since this report was issued.
Well, Letty, do you know of any that were added?
No, I have not done anything prior or subsequent to this. So I
Well,
don't know.
So that the question I'm asking,
Anecdotally, I can say that
how will we find out if there were any?
anecdotally, I know.
City planning.
Yeah, city planning. I know that there are pops added since 2015,
Okay,
but maybe this is part of the outreach to city planning to ask them for the data you have.
it sounds like a plan.
I think there's actually a map on their city planning site that has that.
I struggled to find it. I wonder if we can, yeah.
It came up when I first went and now I can't find it. It's sort of buried deeply in there, I guess, but because when you first go to the site, it does come up.
Got it. Okay, so something for us to look into.
Says view interactive map of all city.
Okay, so this is, if there are no other comments on this issue, moving right along in our agenda, we're doing great on time today. I'll make it even better, waiving the chair's report. And moving to old and new business. We have a number of items to discuss there. Can we start with the sobriety garden for Bellevue? And I don't know if we have representation from there to talk about this issue. Actually, Brendan, is it possible? I thought I saw Kevin is on the call.
Yes, he is.
Is it, Kevin, can you share with us
I'm
if,
promoting him to a panelist, by the way, so that way.
great,
And Kevin should have received a panelist invite, or should have been. I clicked on promote to panelist. Kevin should be,
okay, so while waiting for Kevin, I don't see a presentation actually even in the room from Bellevue. So we can move on to the next point. And that is the quick update you mentioned, Larry. We won't discuss this Soloviev lot today, but this did come out and I did circulate to a few folks that the folks from the Soloviev lot have updated their proposal, and this was published in the New York Times, proposing adding around, I believe, 1,400 units, 400 of which would be rental below, they're referring to it as affordable rental below market rate. I believe it was 80% of median average income. So I know there was a comment from Reshma about this on the record for the New York Times, but that's just mentioning it for the committee as an update from there.
just very quickly, Kevin is now a panelist.
Okay, Kevin?
You're showing us me up there.
And Brandon, can you put up the rendering of the casino, the latest casino rendering?
I have not seen.
I can pull that up.
It's in the, on the Times, or in the Times article.
Could somebody correct me? My understanding was it was that the affordable housing was conditional upon getting the casino license.
That is correct.
Probably.
So since actually Kevin is not able to speak just yet, I'm gonna keep talking about this issue and I'll share my screen. This is the New York Times article. Oops.
Yeah, I saw the article. That's why I was asking.
Sorry, I pay well subscription here. That's not good,
Just give me a moment,
I think the subscribers get the paywall more than
right?
freeloading.
Okay, I can share it here. Go ahead, Brian, while we put it up.
I mean, my big concern with the way it was stated in the Times was that if the community believes that a casino at that site would do real harm to the community, then why does it make the proposal any better to throw in something that we could certainly place elsewhere in the district with other rezoning efforts?
I mean, yeah, it addresses virtually none of the concerns raised. There was never a concern about lack of affordable housing at the site.
I was concerned that the Times article framed that we were concerned about traffic problems, and the way I stated it at the meeting is that it was absolutely unthinkable for them to move people to that site via automobile traffic. There was this absolutely no mass transit planning, and that would be the only way that anything would ever be. I mean, they're bidding $1 billion for the casino license. How are they gonna get that kind of business and that kind of foot traffic there without a mass transit plan? So it wasn't just traffic.
And it's worth noting, we haven't heard from that team yet. So we're just sharing what was shared publicly. It would be great if they come and share a little bit more about their thinking and how they arrived at that number. And whether they will abandon this bigger plan should the casino license should they not be awarded that casino license. It's worth noting, I know the office has reached out a few times about some repairs around the site, safety issues in the sidewalk that cave around their site, and we have not heard back yet.
Big hole. in the
There's a
side.
really big hole on on 39th and First Avenue. So just be careful until then if you walk around that area.
Is that at the bus stop or what?
Just by the bus stop, yeah.
just very quickly, by the way, I have been able to find a non-paywall version, so I'm gonna share the screen and there we go. Here's the I guess this is the rendering that you were talking about, Sandy?
Yeah, are you ready to move forward?
Yes.
Yeah, so you see in the rendering, the Ferris wheel that we previously were shown was dropped. And now there are two buildings to the north side of the site, they're connected in a sky bridge, and one building to the south. And that, I believe this is where the proposed units would go.
We lost the Ferris wheel.
We did lose the Ferris wheel. Okay. So if there are no other comments on this, Brandon, feel free to stop sharing. And I'm not sure if Kevin will
Yeah,
be.
Kevin says he's back.
He's back? Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Hey, Kevin, can you hear us?
Yes, sorry, I was doing homework with my son. I'm back. What did I miss?
No worries, you didn't miss anything. Was there an update from the Bellevue Sobriety Garden? You mentioned last month that maybe you and someone from that group would be able to speak.
Yes, Lori, and I did touch base just a little bit on this with your chair. And she couldn't make it again tonight, but she's very, very interested in circling back on this. So Sandy, obviously, we're talking about Lori, the gardener at that piece of green space.
Okay.
And we can invite her back for another time, whenever she's ready to do a presentation.
And she sends her appreciation from what you discussed last time.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right. Any other old or new business from anyone in the committee?
I want to ask you a question regarding the casino project. Is there any regulation to do that project, or it's just whatever they want to propose, or how is that?
How do you mean by regulations? What are you referring?
And you know, it's like the city have some regulations. I see this tall buildings like Hudson Yards on this side of it. On the,
Yeah.
you know, on the
I think-
city, so it's like. What do they base their project on? If they are,
Yeah, I think they're compliant with the current FAR. That's, actually, Sandy, I'll let you speak to this.
I mean, they went through a whole proposal for the site that established the and the use at that time, although it had office. So I'm not quite sure where they're getting the configuration from, but they'll have to go back to this. A new approval. There'd be a whole new approval process.
right,
But I believe the heights, I mean, it's similar to the building, sorry.
you in.
The building across the street, so I think the heights are within the limits of
Yeah,
what
then
they're-
you in.
yeah, but the building. Forgetting that it's there, but anyway, the black building right across the street,
The 485 First Avenue, yeah.
yeah, for you.
So, since you mentioned this, actually, they promised to come back and present to us. Should they be planning to build more than their allowable FAR, they have to go through a ULURP action, which will have to go through our committee. And that would be our chance to also weigh in. In a ULURP action, our committee actually has more of a say, because we have to give favorable ruling for that to go through. So currently, this is for future months, but just so you know, a couple of days ago, Kyle, Jesus, and me representing Sandy were on a ULURP action call for 455 First Avenue. That is on 1st and 26th, where currently there's an old life sciences building, which is city owned, and now EDC has a plan to convert it as part of the life science initiative, the larger life science initiative that the city is doing. So it's called Innovation East. They presented their plans to us. They will come present to we shared initial comments. They have to come back and present to the full committee. And that's again a ULURP action. So they're trying to build more than is allowed in the zoning law. It's not by a lot. I think it's actually very exciting, but you all get to see it and vote in favor of it. And that's going to happen. They're planning to finish it by April 2024. That means in the next 2 months, they have to come to us.
Is that the Brookdale site?
No.
No.
No. This is across from Bellevue, actually, right on First between 26 and 27.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. If there are no more business, asking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay,
Okay, all right. Thank you all. Seeing no
thank you.
objections.
Good meeting, good meeting.